Hello, 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 everyone. It is Thursday night, and I am super excited to be here with you all. And I hope you've all had a great day and that you're ready to jump in and learn all things tonight around essays. And we're going to talk about your timeline tonight, too. So jump in and say hello. I'm seeing a few hellos from people already. So, um, definitely let me know you're here. I want to be able to say hello to everyone as you're coming in. And are you ready tonight to, hello, Kelly from Illinois. It's good to see you. Are you guys excited to learn all about the essay process and also about how to a timeline. So we're going to talk through the timeline and your college essays. So I'm just making sure all the technology is good here. And I see Sandra. Hello, Sandra. Hello, Bree. Hello, Amy. So we're going to jump right in tonight, and we're going to talk all things essays and your timeline. So give me 1 second and let me get all this set up to go. And we are ready, I think, to get moving. I'm just making sure none of my everything's not covering, so you guys can see that. I know that sometimes it covers up some of the words, so I'm trying to make sure that that's not the case tonight. So let's jump in, let's get started, and move forward. So again, we're crushing college admissions tonight, right? And we're going to talk about essays and how many essays they need. And I know this is the most overwhelming and probably surprise or shocking part of the process, because most students, they hear the term personal statement or essay and they know, well, okay, we're going to write one, but they don't realize all of the other essays. And you guys are familiar with it because I've talked a little bit about it tonight. I mean, a little bit about it over the past few nights, but we're going to go into this a lot more in depth tonight, so you'll have a better understanding of that. Okay. So again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I think all of you have heard this. You know that my name is Dr. Gina. You know, I've written a book. You know, this is my beautiful family. You know, I've been on, several news medias. I've been on podcasts, all of those things. My husband and I are both widows. And we're found each other and love a second time. And so I always say we're the modern day Brady Bunch. That's how I describe our family. But and I have 3 amazing grandchildren, and I'm excited to one day help them through this college admissions process. Again, I worked with thousands of kids during my lifetime of college admissions planning. This was just a small handful of kids and schools that they've gotten into just this past year. So you can see there are all kinds of schools, from private schools to state schools to elite schools to a little bit of everything, just depending on the student and what they were looking for. Okay. So let's talk essays, because I know that's what you want to do. So I am going to give you this number of 15 hours, and I'm going to tell you that it's probably a very, very conservative number when you're looking at everything. So if your child's applying to traditional state universities, maybe schools that are not as highly competitive, or that are smaller, private, or maybe potentially liberal arts schools, things to that effect, they can probably get their essays done in about 15 hours. If they're applying to any school that is more elite or highly competitive, they're looking at having a lot more hours that they're going to need to spend on essays. And it is not unusual for me to see a kid spend 25 hours writing applications, essays, all of that stuff for these really elite schools. So just know that they're going to do a lot of essay writing. And that means they're brainstorming, they're writing the essay, they're having it looked at, they're honing in on, is the content right? This is before they ever even get to the grammar and all of those things. So just be aware that there is a process and it does take a lot of time for them to do that. And then this doesn't even include like if they're doing scholarship applications, things to that effect. Some schools, the actual scholarship application is the application that the student applies with. So when they apply, then they take that same application and that's what they use to determine scholarship money. Other schools have an entire separate application. And it's really important that they're being careful and looking at whether they need to fill out another application in order to be considered for any of those dollars. Okay. So we know that it's going to take a lot of time. We know there's a lot involved in that. So I wanted to first start out and talk about some of the biggest mistakes. So when students are writing essays, these are the biggest mistakes that I see them make and we have to really address. So first of all is they don't answer the question. They think they answer the question. They really do. If you ask them, they're going to tell you, I answered the question. But the reality is they don't. So most of the questions are designed in a three-part format. And so there are really three key elements that they're looking for in these essays. And it depends because, again, it goes around the question that they choose to answer. So therefore, they have to make sure that they understand what is the actual question they're asking within that general overall question. So they might ask a question similar to this, something. Want to make sure I'm trying to think of how to word this. So maybe, and this is not an essay question. So I'm just kind of pulling an essay from past years, but it may say, tell us about your hero. Is there a person in your life that is a hero? This person can be fictional or real. Tell us who the hero is, why they're your hero, and how that has impacted your life. And so this goes into another, when I talk about them not answering the question right, what will happen is the student will say, my hero is my dad. And so, yeah, they ask who the hero is, you're supposed to tell. Then the questions are, why is this person your hero? And how has this affected you? And how are you a different person because of it? And so basically they'll go into, my dad's this amazing person. He took me fishing. He did this. He's done that. He, served in maybe, served in the service. Maybe he is, a big inspiration, like business wise, or all different things. So they tell this whole story. And at the end, the story is all about their dad. They haven't answered the question. They never told me in that essay how are they different? What is the change that has come from them having their dad as their hero? And so that is probably the big thing to know, is that when they're looking at these questions, what is it the school wants to know? And when you're looking at those personal statement essays, the main college essay, the big thing they are looking for is the change in the student. They want to know, where were you at and how did you change? What did you come through? How did it affect you? Are you a different person because of it? Whatever that question is. So not answering the question is one. Telling their story. They have to tell it in first person. Most kids are not used to writing narrative, writing first person, telling their story. Teaching them how to really understand that story and tell the story and tell what's important. I have one of two things that happen. The student either is a great writer, and so it's full of all these amazing adjectives, and it's like 2,000 words, and it needs to be 500. And they're telling a lot of details that are not necessary to the story, or they don't tell enough. They make it so broad and so general that I could attach that essay to any other student that's applying that has a similar resume and life. So I'm telling their story in a way that's authentic and grabs my attention and makes me know that what this person has gone through, what the change is, and how that's happened is a big thing. So, they need to break their story down. That's a big thing. Look at this particular story. You can't tell everything in one essay. So what is the most important pieces? And tell the most important pieces. And at the same time, make sure that I'm going to be engaged during it. Don't use slang. Very rare. There might be a situation or circumstance that you could use something that would be out of the normal of a proper written essay, but that's a very rare thing, and slang is not something they're going to want to use in 99% of their essays. First person, don't tell me the outcome. Don't tell me that you climbed this mountain and at the end you had this amazing experience and this changed your life all in the first paragraph. Then why do I want to keep reading? So you want to make sure that you're telling your story where you're leading and the anticipation up to the point that at the end, I'm like, wow, okay, even if I saw it coming, I'm like, still, this is pretty amazing. But you want to hold my attention through the whole thing. What you have to realize is that we talked about this earlier, that these college admissions counselors are reading tens of thousands of essays, right? That a college gets. If it's getting, what do we say? Some colleges get 20,000 applicants, and you have X number of people reading all of those essays, and they're reading the personal statements plus all the extra the extra ones, the supplemental ones, whether it's a leadership or um, about their career or about whether they like the school or any of those things, then you want to make sure they're not going to fall asleep when they're reading that on Christmas break or at 10 or 11 o'clock at night when they're tired, because most of the time that's what they're doing. They're sitting down and they're reading through those essays. So you want your essay to grab my attention so that if I'm yawning and I'm on my 20th cup of coffee, that I'm like, oh, okay, this has just now got my attention. I really want to read this essay, and this has really caused me to engage with that student. And again, I see that uniquely you all the way through it. Okay, so that's the kind of the big mistakes that we see in essay writing. So I wanted to give you a couple of just kind of general ideas. So a lot of times students will, and I'm typically writing about a trip to Disney World or something like that is not an essay you're going to write. But, a student maybe had something profound happen at Disney World. Maybe they're a performing artist and all of a sudden they're at Disney World and there was something that happened that made them decide, oh my goodness, I want to work for Disney someday. This is my goal and I can see myself performing or whatever that might be. And so they would go through and, typically a student would tell that story that way. But instead, what you want to do is not focus on, oh, I went to Disney World and I was watching the parade and I decided I wanted to be, a Disney princess or something along those lines. Okay. So instead, you want to talk about that aha moment of like, what was it specifically in that parade that literally had such meaning to you? Was there a character, or maybe there was a moment that you were riding a roller coaster? This actually, I had a student a few years ago that wanted to become an engineer, and he wanted to actually work and create roller coasters, and that's what he wants to do for a living. He loves roller coasters. I mean, loves them and loves drawing them, and can thinking that way about how you create all these new exciting rides. I mean, you don't think about that there are people out there that create those, but there are, and they got to be really smart to make sure that everybody stays on the tracks and nobody has any accidents, right? So he was able to jump into that essay and talk about the moment when he rode a particular roller coaster that he was like, this is what I want to do. I want to, he started thinking about all the dynamics and the things that went into it and how it impacted him to a point that he wanted to study engineering and eventually do that with his life. And so that's the kind of moment that I'm talking about, something that is like goes off for him. And it doesn't have to be about a trip, but it can be anything in their life. Even if it's a moment where they were overcoming something, and they're in the middle of it, they're struggling, they're ready to give up, and they have that moment that one moment that transitions everything and opens their eyes to the next step. Okay. Then listing your resume. This is something I see all the time. So students will go through and they'll just start listing their resume. Well, okay, like for example, maybe one of the essays, and this is usually a supplemental. It'll say talk about an extracurricular activity. So they go through and they're like, well, I did dance and I did this and I did that, and their whole essay just is basically a recap of what they put in their resume. That's nothing new that I'm learning. So they don't want to make it abroad and try to shove all these things into the essay. I don't need you to recap your essay, your resume to me. I can read your resume. So think about that one single accomplishment, how it changed you. Again, what they're really looking for is how you change, what impact did it have? Who are you now? How are you different now than you were before you started that activity or that event or whatever it was that happened? And then the third thing, instead of making excuses for low grades, we all know that there are a lot of students that struggle when we had online education. I see it's very prevalent. And there are a lot of students that had grades that went down. Then they came back into the classroom. There was a transition and grades just suffered. And so instead of coming in and saying, well, my grades suffered because of COVID, well, we know that. We know that, that period of time, the pandemic affected certain kids and grades and things like that. What you want to do is address it from, again, what you learned, how it changed you, what you did to turn that situation around. I had a student a few years ago that was dyslexic. And so when we talked about it, the student was able to really jump in and share with me a lot of great information about how going through the services that were provided really helped them, like really be able to read better, to manage the dyslexia, all of those things. And so instead of saying, I have dyslexia and this is something I deal with, and so my grades are not as good as they could be because of that, they're saying, while I have dyslexia, going through this exact program helped me really realize where my weaknesses were. And as I went through and began to, add in all the things I learned, I began to see an increase in my grades. That was a very broad example, but, you can definitely jump in. So there are times and places within the application that you can write about something that affected your grades. There's on the Common App, there's a question that says, is there anything about your academic career that we need to know that you haven't already told us somewhere else in the application? This is not a time to repeat something we've already talked about, but that essay can be critical for some students. And so when you're addressing it, you've got to address it in the right way. Otherwise, it comes out like you're just making excuses, and that it's just, you're just going to come there, and when things don't go the way you want them to, you're going to make more excuses. That may not be the intent of the student at all. It's just the way the essay comes across. So always think about, instead of writing it this way, how can I write it so that it's personal and that you see growth and change and you see authenticity in that essay? So hopefully that kind of helps explain some of those specific things that we see that need to be adjusted. Okay. All right. So steps to a successful essay. So academics, we kind of talked about that. How do your academics play into your major and your goals? So one of these supplemental essays always ask about your major, or they may ask, like I said, about something along your academics. There may be an opportunity for you to share some course or something you've taken. And so we want to make sure that with that uniquely you, that we're showing that progression all the way through. So maybe your student's passion is, I think maybe they have a passion in history. So, and they're going to major in economics or history or law or something to that effect. And so then maybe there are some classes they took that we want to address within that essay. That was that moment that they were sitting in class that just, sent off the alarms in their head that they were like, yes, this is what I'm going to major in, which kind of ties into number 4. So we'll do number 2 and 3 as well. But number 1 and 4 kind of tie together because academically and when you're choosing your major, they like to see those things align if possible. Now, I know that maybe you're going to be an engineer and you didn't take an engineering class, or maybe you want to go into business and you didn't take a business class, or you realized, oh, I wish I would have taken that other class and you didn't. And that's okay. We just address it from a different perspective. But anytime you can tie those things together, that's going to give strength to that essay. Activities. Where do you spend your time? Are you actively involved? And so one of the things that they're going to ask again is, tell us about an extracurricular that you've been involved in. And the question's more in depth than that, but that's kind of the high overview of it. So when they ask you to talk about that one moment, that's where you can tie in leadership. You can tie in your volunteerism, but you need to have that activity. So if your resume is really weak right now and you don't have a lot of things on there, this summer is when you really need to be planning something that your student's going to jump in and love and enjoy and have a passion about. And again, we know and colleges know that activities were canceled for a year to 2 years there, depending on where you were in the country. They understand that your student wasn't able to do something that they had planned. I mean, many students had traveling experiences, different things that didn't happen. But there were things that they did during that time, even when they were home. So we have to think outside the box. That is the big key, is thinking outside the box. And when you're writing this supplemental essay or this short answer that goes along with that, how do you tie these things together? So you can kind of see how these essays are not going to be the same. We're seeing a different side of the student in each essay. We see that personal statement where they get to really write their story and tell the admissions office who they are. They get to talk about their major and their academics and how the things that they've done all tie together. They get to talk about their activities and pick out that one activity. They get to share and show their leadership. That's another one. They'll ask about a leadership opportunity and how that leadership opportunity changed or impacted them. They're not wanting, again, for the student to just list off their resume. Well, I was a leader here and I did this and I did that. What they want to know is, what one leadership opportunity or what area of leadership do you feel that you're really strong in, and how did it impact you? And how are you a better leader now because of it? And so I know this is like crazy when you think about it, because we're asking 18-year-olds to think about this when we have a lot of adults that would have a hard time struggling with this. This year, I had a dad ask me one day, he said, this is crazy. Like, if I were asked to do this in my job, I would struggle coming up with what I'm supposed to write for all of these. And sadly, we're asking our 18-year-olds to do this. And that's why I want to talk about it, because it's not just this simple, oh, I'm going to just flip out an essay. And that's where I see students who are highly qualified, who absolutely could get accepted in a university, are just rolling out some essay that they think, oh, I'm just going to talk about this one leadership moment, not having any clue that they're not answering the question. They're not really showing themselves in the best light, all of those things. Experiences, again, when it asks what makes you diverse, what makes you uniquely you, those two things together. So you can pull from your experiences, pull from those things to talk about what makes you different, what makes you stand out, and why you're a good fit for that campus. So just remember, when I talk about this whole thing, this whole week has been, you want a thread that goes through the whole thing, and you're sewing all the pieces together. And at the end, you have this beautiful project that's complete with this one beautiful red thread that runs through the whole thing, where I can see all of the things about your student and you really stand out and they really impact me. So that's what you got to think about in these essays. Now, again, some essays, the personal essay is going to be between 500, 550 words. 600, somewhere in that range. But most of your short answers are going to be 100 to 200, 100 to 300 words. And they think, oh, good, it's not very many words. But I promise you, those can be some of the most difficult ones because the school wants to know, can you tell me about, about your leadership in 3 sentences? Because that's about what you get, 3 sentences to say what the most important part of your leadership is and to not repeat that over and over again. So just know that all of these, they come from everything from that 150 words all the way up to 650 words, and all of them have a little bit different take. I know that it's crazy, and to think about it, it's a lot, but just know that you want to have your students coming in with that plan in place so that they are able to really think through all of these essays and show themselves in a new light. Okay, so now I'm going to shift. I've told you a lot about the essays. There is a lot more, as far as when you brainstorm an essay with a kid, helping them like get into that writing zone. Kids that don't like to write, that are really engineer brains, helping them shift into that. But what I've given you is the basic important things to know. When you're helping your kid write that essay or guiding them or, talking it through, when I'm working with students to do that, we jump in and I make the process as fun as I possibly can. Because it's not a fun part. And I try to simplify it. I have a system where it's very organized, and I help them write as few of essays as they can that's going to go across the board to all of the different schools. There are some essays like, why do you want to attend University XYZ? That has to be a different essay, and it has to be approached differently, and your student has to know why they want to attend that university, not because they want to go to NYU because it's in the city of New York and they get to live in the city, or that it's got the best engineering program, or that, they've got a great football team. They know all those things. They want to know down in the core why your student wants to go there. So that's a huge part of the research piece, so that they really do know, why am I a good fit and why do I really want to be on that campus? So just keep those things in mind. So now we're going to talk about putting a game plan in place early. And I wanted to just add this piece in tonight. So your student's transcript is typically based on the end of their junior year. When I work with students, my goal is to have every application completed by December 1. Even if they're applying regular decision and the decision date isn't until January, we do not want them waiting until January to complete all these applications. You do not want to spend your Christmas. And, when you think about it, as a senior, that's their last Christmas, that are the last year they're living in your home. Next year, they'll be home for Christmas, but it is a whole different dynamic because they've been off at college and now they're coming home. So you want to be able to enjoy that holiday, and you do not want to be stressing over, applications and essays and all those things. So I actually typically have a deadline of November 15th. And then if they have like a lot of really in-depth, hard applications, they can go till December 1st. But really and truly, I want them knocked out as early as they possibly can. Most of my students typically, like truly and honestly, they typically will have their applications done before November 1. All the early action deadlines, and I'll talk about that more in depth tomorrow, is November 1. So I really shoot to have all of their applications done by that mid-October date, so that by November 1, they're submitting everything, even if it has a January date. It doesn't matter. They get them done. They get them submitted. They go into the waiting period. They don't miss deadlines. If there's a scholarship application that they need to work on, they can do that. So it gives them the time to go ahead, enjoy their senior year. It takes it off the plate. As parents, you're not stressing out about it anymore, and it's done. And that's the most important part. So just keeping that whole and having a game plan is what's going to help you do that. Um, you want to make sure that they don't lose important emails. There's a whole strategy around demonstrated interest and showing that to the schools. We talked about that early. So you want to make sure that they don't lose emails, that they are checking their emails regularly. That's a big thing for kids. I can't tell you how many times a school will send a email to a student and say, we're missing XYZ. And the student has sent it. Maybe the student sent that transcript or sent those test scores. But for whatever reason, we live in a digital age and mail and everything else, and things can get lost. And if it's not there, they don't care if you think or that you did send it. Even if you did send it and your school didn't send it over and the deadline passes, then you're going to be denied because you don't have a complete application. So you have to watch those emails. You don't want to miss deadlines. Having a game plan is going to keep you making sure that you're getting everything done for early action, decision, your restricted early action, all these deadlines I'm going to talk about tomorrow. So don't get bogged down into those tonight, but we'll talk about those different decisions and what they mean tomorrow night. But you don't want to miss any important deadlines at all. So let's talk about the timeline. So 9th to 11th grade is really your planning stage. That's when you're planning, you're doing all the things. You're donating, and you're demonstrating in all areas. You're figuring out your major, taking some classes, doing some extracurricular activities that might let you know, do I like that or do I not like that? You're finding the right college fit by showing demonstrated interest to the colleges, visiting them in person and virtual, or attending college fairs. That's really an important thing. You want to get in front of those college admissions counselors and recruiters, and whatever way you want to get on that college's radar. And you can start doing that early and, showing up at 9th or 10th grade in a tour or on a virtual, like counselors event that they do online at a particular school is going to show favorably to you. Okay. Continue. They're going to develop that uniquely you that we talked about. These are all things going on. Plan for test prep and testing. Organize your summer plans. If you're younger, if your child's 9th or 10th grade, make sure they're doing things in the summer that will build their college resume. The biggest thing I think, and the biggest misconception is, I don't need to do that till my junior year. And like I told you, if you're juniors, don't panic. It's okay. We'll pull and we'll be able to put together from what you have. But if you start that earlier, it's just going to add more strength to your application. The portfolios, it's much easier to start creating those early versus waiting. And you can start applying for scholarships as early as kindergarten. So not that I think there are very many, kindergartners should be out applying to scholarships, but there are a handful of them. So, but just be aware your student can start applying for scholarships as a freshman. Okay, so now I know this is little kind of bullet points that are small to read. So if you want to take a screenshot of this, I'm fine with you doing that. If you want to take a picture with your camera on your phone so you can blow it up and remember it. But freshman year is all about exploration. Think about careers, set goals for yourself. Think about, are you going to go to a competitive do you want to go to a selective college? And if you do, then what do you need to do to make sure you have the right GPA, classes, so forth? Set goals for yourself. Again, start participating in sports. I always tell freshmen, this is where you can jump into 2 or 3 things and figure out what you like and what you don't like. And then you don't have your sophomore year, you'll decide, well, it was fun playing soccer, but I don't think I want to do that anymore. And that's okay. But you're going to find the things that you really, really like. Okay. Keep your grades up. Then going into your sophomore year, make sure that your curriculum is building upon each other, and don't waste your summer. Go out, volunteer, find a leadership position, take an online course, go to a camp. It doesn't matter. There's lots and lots of options. Just be doing something that's going to help build that resume. Okay, sophomores. Now we're going to begin to grow our application. Okay, and this is where again sophomores really can start stepping into some early leadership roles. Maybe they're like over a small group versus being like class president. So there are lots of things they can begin to do to build out things in a greater way. So again, continue to keep those classes, continue to make sure that you're on track. If you're going to go into engineering, make sure you've got the right maths and sciences. You can go out and try the PSAT. It's always a practice one for your junior year. So it's always good to go in and take that test. It doesn't count. It's just a good way for you to get your feet wet with it. Take career assessments. This is the perfect time to begin to do some of those career assessments and fun different tests that are out there to determine what is it, learn your personality. What do you like? What do you not like? What are your strengths? Those type of things. Continue to grow in your activities. And again, begin to step into some leadership roles there. Again, then start thinking about your senior year, your junior year at the end of that, and the classes. Can you take more AP classes? Where do you fall in that? Is your course rigor strong in comparison to what your whole class is being offered? And you're going to begin to build out that resume and identify where you've got weak spots so that you can fill those things in. And again, continue to plan a productive summer. Now my juniors. So junior year is like test year. Okay. Junior year is the most important academically. It actually weighs in a little heavier than some of your other years because this is the last year that your grades are going to go in on your transcript for college. So if you think about if you're hitting early action deadlines and you're sending everything in before Christmas, you're not going to have a senior year transcript with new grades and that type of thing. If your student struggles academically and they need that senior year to have their grades show us higher strength in their grades or in their GPA, then what you can do is go ahead and have their application submitted, but you're going regular decision, and then you send in a transcript at the end in January when they get the new transcripts out. But for most kids, we want to try to avoid that because that means if they're going regular decision, they're not going to hear back. We have kids that are waiting regular decision that won't hear back from those colleges until April, somewhere mid-April. And they have May 1 is National Decision Day. So if you're trying to get on a campus or determine if it's the right campus or, so forth, and you still don't even know if you're accepted, that can be a little nerving. So it's better to have that solid score and a solid GPA at the end of your junior year. But if you don't, there is a strategy. So just keep that in mind. It's also the most difficult year academically, typically for students. You want to make sure that you're going on college visits. They should be going virtually attending, emailing, reaching out, showing demonstrated interest to these colleges. If they can get on in person, then that's great. Go deeper in their activities. This is where they can definitely take on more leadership, really expand their interests. So whatever it is they like, they can add and begin to do more outside activities or that tie into that particular thing. If they love engineering, then maybe they need to do research along with what they're doing, their engineering class, or maybe they're building some kind of robots or, computer systems. Or if they love music, maybe they're joining additional bands that they can be in. So junior year is where they can expand in the area of interest. Again, take on more leadership roles. Think about your summer. That's a big thing. All of the juniors, everyone here should be thinking about something they can do in the summer at this point. And then take a class that shows demonstrated interest in your major. So even though your grades aren't going to be sent into the college as a senior, as a junior, if you suddenly realize, okay, I really want to do something in a particular major and I don't really have any classes that really support that, then take an extracurricular, look at what the extracurricular classes are that you can pull in and take as an elective that will actually show that demonstrated interest. Because on the application, they ask, what classes are you taking your senior year? So you have to list all the classes you're taking. So you're still able to show demonstrated interest with that, even though you don't have an official grade for it. So hopefully that makes sense. And then, like I said, as juniors, they're going to take the PSAT in the fall. They're looking at SAT and ACT prep and taking those tests anytime from now until June, June. Hopefully they've got a score and they're not having to take them in the fall next year. That should be your number one goal. And then they're taking all the AP tests come May, and they've got all their finals. So junior year really is, unfortunately, a lot about testing and academics. So once they get through this year, senior year tends to be a much easier road for them. Even though they're taking challenging academic classes, it's just not quite as crazy as it is their junior year. Okay, senior year. So now as your student hits their senior year, it's time for application season. It opens officially in August. The Common App and Coalition and some of the main applications open August 1st. But the reality is that until a college opens their application, you're not able to complete the full application. So even if the Common App opened on August 1st, you sat down and did all your application, you did the whole Common App, and you're like, okay, I'm ready to do all my schools. You have to go see which ones have rolled over and have the new senior year information for their class. So a lot of times there are pieces that we can't do until that point. When I work with students, my goal is, and we start now, we do the career exploration. We build out that college list. We solidify the major. We write the Common App or the personal statement essays. And this is from now to like through the summer. We get those essays done, completed, because that's the one they're going to spend the majority of the time on, because it is like probably the most important one. So in some respects, so we want to make sure that's really, really solid. We can go in and set up our application so that everything's set up. We got our demographics in, but then we make sure that we have resumes completely filled out, the right format. Everything looks good on them so that they're ready to submit. We go through, we make sure we have our letters of recommendation packets ready to go, so that when we hit August 1 and everything opens, we've got about 3/4 of the application process done. So that means really from August to October, what we're focusing on is all the supplemental essays that you're waiting to know what those questions are. And even with those, I have ideas. We know as counselors from previous years, things to that effect, the general idea of what those essays are going to be. So a lot of times what I do is have those kids kind of write out like a format that gives them an idea of what they're going to write, bullet points, some thoughts, things to that effect. So that when they're ready to write, they just have to go back to that sheet and go, okay, well, I was going to talk about this. And so like we talk about leadership and those various things, and they have some different bullet points, and then they're able to pull from those. So we kind of do an outline overall. But then when we hit that, they're in writing those essays and they're doing the supplemental pieces. So now we're only doing the things that are still left over. So that is what you need to remember as your student is going through that senior year, is that you don't want to wait. If you're waiting to August 1, you are in a lot of hot water, because they're not going to be ready. It's going to take them a lot longer, and the likelihood that they're going to hit those early action dates and so forth is going to be a little difficult. So that's a lot of information. I hope you guys took a lot from it. You kind of have an idea of the timeline, and I hope that you have a better understanding of essays, what to do, and how to really make them work. So I wanted to jump in because I've had several people like reach out to me in Messenger and different things and just ask about about my programs, how you can work with me, all of those things. And so I want to share a little bit about my programs with you, if you'll give me just a few minutes. And then I'm going to draw tonight our winner for the Purposeful Parent, and I still want to answer questions. So if you have questions about essays, things like that, you can go ahead and drop them in. I will definitely be answering those, because that's what I want to make sure. If there's something you need clarity on, something I said that you're like, okay, could you dive into that a little bit more? I absolutely want to make sure to do that. So definitely put that information, drop it in and let me know. Okay. So basically, moving forward from this week, we've been together for 4 days. We're going to be together tomorrow night. I'm super excited. Tomorrow night, we're going to pull all this together. And if you saw the emails, you know that I'm going to do a bonus session on Monday night, because I do this because I build out a college list and I show you how I do that. And I do a fictional student just so you can kind of see the tools and how I do that, and some of the things I use to really help develop out that list and what I'm looking for. So that's always helpful. It is not done here live on Facebook. It is a event you have to register for. And so check your emails, because the link is in there. We'll do it in Zoom as a group. So just check that out. And Monday night, that will be a bonus session. So you can go ahead and go the path alone and figure this out on your own. And, I have lots of free resources. You can always stay connected within the group and various other things. And, I want you to do that if that's the road you decide to go. But I do want you to know some of the actual facts, because a lot of people don't realize, and this is why I do what I do. But college admissions experts, we visit 25 plus colleges a year. So when I'm building out a college list, I'm going to be able to give you ideas and schools that maybe your student hasn't thought of. If you're looking to be at a school that's going to give more financial help, or give bigger grant money, or give more scholarships merit wise, I'm going to know what those are, because I'm on the campuses. I'm talking to the college admissions counselors in those offices. I know what they're looking for. When they make a shift as a college admissions expert, we know that typically well before the general public does. So we're able to go in and begin to shift our students so that they're already ahead of the game, making sure that they're doing and preparing and getting into the colleges that they want to go to. Students who work with a college admissions expert are 3 times more likely to be successful and get into the colleges they are applying to than those that don't. This is something a lot of people don't know, but 35% of seniors now are working with a college expert. So when you think about the number of applications that are going in and the small number of acceptances that come out of that, and you have 35% of those people already working with a college admissions expert, then that makes that number even more difficult when you're trying to do things that you're just not aware of. So I commend you all for being here, because you are ahead of the game and you are learning, and you know already a lot of things that a lot of people don't know. Just the general public doesn't know. People say to me all the time, you don't know what you don't know. So these are just some random facts that I want you to know. And I'm sure this one you're aware of, but the average high school counselor is a ratio of 476 students to one counselor. And that's a national average. Some are smaller, some are bigger, but that's the average. And a student gets an average of 38 minutes of personal advising over their entire college admission career, or their high school career. And it's so crazy to me. I mean, I really commend our high school counselors. They work hard. And I know that there are counselors, high school counselors, that come in and work and listen to what I do, and, pull from my resources to help their students. And those are amazing counselors. But our counselors have a lot on their plate. They're doing a lot more than just trying to help students with college admission. And many, many high schools do not have one counselor dedicated to that process. And if a student is not proactive going in, talking to their counselor, then, it's the counselor doesn't know that that student needs help, and they don't have the time to give that individual help. So, many of you have experienced that. Many of you don't know your school counselor. We'll talk about that a little bit tomorrow. But that's an important thing. And 60% of our high school seniors never receive any college admissions guidance, which makes me really sad. But again, it's for all the reasons that I just kind of shared. So I wanted to present to you my Accepted Academy. This is the umbrella of the programs that I hold. So first of all, I do hold private consulting. If your student wants to do one-on-one private counseling, I have those services. I do a la carte things. I have courses that students can go through, do it yourself. So I have a variety of things, but the Accepted Academy is probably, to me, one of the best options and values that a student and a family can utilize. So they're the ones I want to talk about. So Purposeful Parent, which is what I'm going to give away tonight, and I definitely want to share about this with you so that you know what you're getting for whoever wins. So Purposeful Parent is just that. It's a parent organized group. It's a monthly fee every month. Parents come into the group. We meet once a month, and I talk about a different hot topic. Parents are able to ask questions. It's really designed for underclassmen and those freshmen, sophomore, junior, juniors prior to going to, not current juniors, but students that are going to be juniors next year. Those are the families that it's really designed for. I do have senior parents that come into it and get a lot of value from it as well. But it is a once a month meeting where you get to meet with me, talk with me, and learn about whatever that hot topic is that month. And again, it's just what it said, is parents of high school, college bound teens. And a lot of times teens will join in, but I will tell you it's 90% parents, but a lot of times, and I encourage teens to sit with their parents and be involved because it's their process. But it includes a monthly action plan. We meet in Zoom. We have member only events. So there are times that I bring in guest expert or I do something special and you get to attend that. I record all events. I have some families that aren't able to attend. It's always the last Thursday of every month in the evening about this same time. So if you're not able to meet or something comes up or you're sick or whatever, you always get to go back and can watch everything's recorded. So you can get all the resources. We have a resource vault that has a couple of different courses and resources and downloadables and things like that your student gets. Everybody gets a copy of my book. If you join my programs, you get a copy of my book. And we have a Facebook community where you can come in and ask questions. I encourage my families to get to know each other and chat and talk, encourage each other, and walk through this process. And then, of course, you have me and my team by your side, just there to support and walk through that with you. So that is the Purposeful Parent. And the cost for that is $99 a month. And it really is. And, it's always hard for me to put an exact value, but just if you were to break out my hourly rate and how many times I'm just live, that I'm live every single time, that's like almost a $3,000 value, plus the game plan, the vault. And one thing I didn't mention is that there is a scholarship course inside the academy. So for me, when I planned both of these programs, Purposeful Parent and Accepted Academy, I try to look at this from a holistic perspective, from we got to start here and we need to end here. And that means that we not only need to make sure we have a game plan, that we've pulled everything, that we are ready to apply to college, but that you're able to pay for it. So you'll find that I provide lots of resources financially, from scholarship stuff to I bring in experts all the time to talk about various different strategies, things that surround the college process as far as paying for college, how they make decisions, and what you can do. And I will tell you that many of my even middle class families are able to find ways to get not only large scholarships, but grant money and other things by really implementing some of the things that I'm sharing with you, so that you're on the right course. And again, this is a $99 a month. It's no commitment, no long-term commitment. You pay a month, and if it's not what you want, then you can send an email, and you end your time at the end of that month. And if you join during this special session, you get 3 hours of private counseling that you can use anytime. As long as you're part of the Purposeful Parent, you can use that. So let's say your child is a sophomore and or a freshman, and you want to have me help them pick their courses, or you want you're applying for a scholarship and you need some help with an essay. So that's when you can use those hours, and you just reach out to me and you get to use those. So those 3 hours of private counseling go in, as long as you're signing up during this time when I'm doing this workshop and so forth. So again, and Miss Debbie will be dropping a link in a little bit into the chat where you can go check out all the details and join. Then, on the other hand, we have our seniors, our class of 2023. So, my program for them is called the Valedictorian. And this is truly a comprehensive program. There is so much, and I always feel like I try to share it all, and there's no way for me to really explain how much is really involved in this. So it is a personalized group coaching program. So it is a hybrid of students working in a group. So there are lessons where they're going to work as a group. They come in, I do a training, then they work on their own alongside of. With that, it is me. I'm meeting with them. I do breakouts with them. I talk with them. They are getting a lot of personal attention as well in those groups. And it is literally everything from A to Z, including the kitchen sink, and you'll see that in a minute. Your student will have a game plan. They're going to have an actionable plan that takes them through the process. And by the time that they are in October, in November, they're going to have hit those deadlines, and they're not going to be nearly as stressed out. They're not going to be worrying that they missed something or something's not happening. They have access to me and my team during this whole entire process. So you have the confidence that your teen is going to be successful. I will tell you that I have students that are shy, and I have students that are extrovert. And this year, my students as a whole literally have had tremendous success. And not just this year. I have been doing these groups for about 3 years now, and every group has come through this process. They've made friends with each other. They have walked away with scholarships. They are getting into top highly competitive colleges, but they're finding the college that's right for them, and they have a better understanding of themselves, and they're super excited about that process. So that's just a little bit about that. So basically, like I said, I have 12 specific lessons where we go through and we do every step of the college admissions process. I am walking them through creating a Common App, filling that out, making sure that everything is done correctly, and then looking through all of their stuff as once they've done that. We go through the essays. We have a whole entire essay workshop we do with them. We build out their resumes. They go in, we teach them how to build out the resume. We give them the templates. They go do it. They put it in a shared file with me and my team. And we go back and we look over it, and we make sure that everything on that is right. And I will tell you that even though I do have, another consultant that works with me, I am in there 100% putting my eyes on every single thing. That's just the way I do it. And so it is still like I am the person that your child will see and will be with. So it's not like I hand it off to somebody else and I'm not there. So they will be having access to me for sure. So that, just to clarify that part. We also have group office hours. So we do all of the specific teaching, getting all the pieces and plan together so that in August, we shift into weekly office meetings. And so what happens there is that your student can come in, we open up a Zoom room, they come in and they can work on whatever it is they're working on. So they have accountability. You know that every single week on the same day at the same time, they're going to be there and we're going to be there, and they can sit and work on whatever they're working on and ask whatever questions they need. And if it's something that's personal, we do breakout rooms so that they can talk to us one-on-one. So they have opportunity to talk to us in those meetings one-on-one, as well as working as a group. We do everything on this list from, like I said, the essays, the Uniquely You developed out. You get access to Purposeful Parent. You get all the resources. We have an entire college planning software system that allows all kinds of data on colleges, planning your college and building out that list. I do meet with every student individually to make sure that their list is complete and that it's the correct list for them. And we sign off as you as a family and me as a consultant that yes, this is the correct college list for them. And then they have timelines in there. They have due dates. They know exactly what's due when, and we're just holding them accountable and staying on top of that process with them. So when I say it's comprehensive, it truly is comprehensive. And what is really great about this is I told you I want this to be a whole process. So I know some of you have already started test prep, but included in this program is test prep in a box. And I work with a lady and her company that does test prep up in Washington. She is phenomenal, and she created an online program that's a complete test prep in a box for both SAT and ACT. It has pre-test. It has how to overcome test anxiety. It is a full do-it-yourself course, and you get access to that when you're part of this valedictorian program. And in addition to that, you get a scholarship database as well as the scholarship program and all the financial parts. So just like in Purposeful Parent, where I'm giving them a database and giving them the scholarship stuff and the paying for college, you get it too. So my point is that if I can help your children get an SAT and ACT score that's going to be solid. And even if they've got a private tutor and maybe they're struggling in one area, they can go and pull courses or pull a lesson from wherever inside this course that maybe will help them strengthen that one area. So we want to get their scores where they can get those big scholarships. I want you to get not just those scholarships, but be able to put a plan in place and for you guys to feel comfortable that you're lowering that sticker shock of college cost. And then I work with them on everything in the middle to help them have the right list, get accepted, stand out, have great essays, be on time, get it done, and know that you can go on the holidays and breathe easier. So I know that's a lot for me. I feel out of breath, just sharing all of that. But hopefully, it's hard for me to explain all of it because there's so much involved in the program. So the cost for that is $39.97. If you go out and talk to a college admissions counselor, you're going to find price ranging for private one-on-one in a whole variety of phases. But the average cost is between $6,000 and $12,000 for a personal counselor. So that's about what you're going to pay, depending on where you're at in the nation. Some places are less expensive, but to get a good counselor that is part of the professional organizations, that has the credentials, that has the code of ethics, all of those things, and has the experience and knows the ropes, that's about what you're going to pay. And so just for me looking at what I do, I put some basic values on these things, but just know that your child, it's not just about the cost. I mean, it's $39.97, which is a great deal, because your child is basically getting a one-on-one coaching program plus their test prep plus the financial piece, which most of the time you pay for all those things independently, which can cost a lot more. And you're getting it for $39.97 because you're working with us within a group. So I hope that makes sense. And I try, explaining everything. I do allow payment plans. You can pay for it all at once, or you can make 4 payments of $10.50. And like I said, I don't want somebody not to be able to do it because of finances. So I do offer other smaller packages and things to that effect. I want your child to be successful if there's something else you need. But this is definitely an all-inclusive everything, like I said, and the kitchen sink in that process. So I did drop the link. Miss Debbie dropped the link in both, I think, the YouTube and the Facebook. I'm going to put this up here just in case somebody hasn't, can't see it, but it's right there. And if you sign up by midnight tomorrow, so this particular package, you get 3 hours automatically. So I should have said that. So with the program, you automatically get 3 hours. Again, just like Purposeful Parent, you can use those anytime you need them. A lot of times we pull kids during the essay time to give them some extra help. But if you join by Friday night, then you get 3 extra hours. So that gives you 6 hours. Maybe you want to talk about your finances. Maybe you need to really talk through that college list in more depth, or maybe your student is going to be interviewing and needs some interview prep. So whatever that is that they need, we're going to allow them to use those hours, and those extra 3 hours can be really huge on the actual college counseling end. So just keep that in mind, that that's a fast action bonus if you decide to do it by Friday night. Again, here is the learn more at acceptedacademy.com. So that's all you have to do is go there and you can learn a lot of information. So yeah, somebody said great price. Thank you. I appreciate that. And it really is an amazing program. I get to know the kids so well. One of my things, the reason I love doing this is that I want to be connected, and that's one of my huge values for me. And it's important to me to connect with your kids. And I make these group coaching programs super fun, that the kids get to come in, they get to enjoy one another, they get to know each other. I make them comfortable. The kids that are not as sometimes kids that are not as self-starters will get more excited. They'll start doing the work because they know that everybody else is going to be doing that. One other thing too that I wanted to share was that we do the courses are all recorded. So everything is recorded. So you don't have to worry about that. If your child misses, they'll be able to watch the recording, do the assignment. But in addition to that, what I do is once we get the group set, I go out and I will do a survey, and I find a time that works best for the majority of the students. And I work that schedule so that it works for all the students, and they will have those schedules 3 months in advance for because I do certain ones for the spring, I do certain ones in the summer, and then we'll do it different times in the fall. But I definitely find what works for every family altogether. Okay. All right. So questions about anything from the program to essays to any of those things. I want to give everybody a moment to ask any questions that you might have. And so I know we're a couple of minutes behind on the Facebook, depending on where you're watching. So I'm going to give it a couple of minutes to let anybody that has any questions, you can pop those in. I hope that you got a lot from the essay portion of it, and understanding what the colleges are looking for, and how to approach those essays, and what not to do, and that part of it, as well as the timeline. So do we have any questions? We don't. So I'm going to do a drawing. I'm going to go ahead while we're waiting. If you have questions, you can pop them in there. And I will say before I do that, I'm going to let Miss Debbie pop into the comments. I am actually going to go into a Zoom room after this. If you're interested in Purposeful Parent or Accepted Academy, and you have questions that you want to ask about that specifically, maybe you need more explanation, you want to know how something's going to work, you have something specific about your own child, then I'm going to be in there for the next 15 to 20 minutes after this, and you can come in and ask me, because I want to give you access. I want to answer your questions. This is a big commitment. I get that. So I want to be there to answer your questions. So she's going to pop that in right there. And here it is right here. So you guys can click on that in the comments over here. And I think she's putting it in the YouTube channel as well, so that you can do that if you are on YouTube watching. But I definitely would love to meet any of you in the room that have questions. Okay. All right. So are somebody ready to win? When should juniors be asking for their letters of recommendations from teachers? We are going to go in, Sandra, we're going to talk about that tomorrow night. So tomorrow night, I'm going to take you through what the different decisions mean, letters of recommendations, when to ask, kind of what to look for in that, we're going to talk about resumes, and we're going to just talk about that whole process. And then I am going to also include in that section a little bit about financial aid. It's a big topic for me to go into all of it. That could be a whole entire week just by itself. But I do want to give some, guidance, some ideas, some suggestions so that you're aware of how that process works. So that's everything. So tomorrow is the whole process, and I'll go into more depth about those letters of recommendation, what to include and who to ask, and all of that tomorrow night. Okay. Perfect. Any other questions? I don't see any others. So all right, so let me share. I've got everybody on my screen. I'm super excited because somebody is going to win access to Purposeful Parent. And what I will say is that if it's a junior and you're interested in upgrading to valedictorian, then I will talk with you and you will have I'll take the price of Purposeful Parent, the yearly fee off, and you can join the valedictorian for a discounted price. So either you can take the year in Purposeful Parent, or you can apply the credit and get a lower price for that for valedictorian if that's what you're interested in. Okay. All right. So everybody ready to see who our winner is? Here we go. Sarah. Is Sarah? I thought I saw. Was Sarah maybe? Is Sarah here? I thought maybe not. I was thinking that she was here. So Sarah, are you in the house? Woohoo! So Sarah is the winner. That's cool, Kelly. I'll see you tomorrow night as well. I'm glad that you enjoyed the session. So if Sarah's in the house, that's great. If not, I will be reaching out to her, and I'm going to give away another book because somebody else still needs to win a book, right? And so I'm super excited. I don't know if Sarah has a junior or if she's got a younger student, but I will definitely be reaching out to her, and congratulations, Sarah. So let's see who's going to be the winner of our book. Amy, did you win? Was Amy the one that won the book last night? Miss Debbie was. I know there was an at. I was trying to remember. Did Amy win a book last night? I can't remember if it was the same Amy or not. Okay, I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and draw a second book because I can't remember if Amy was the one that won a book last night. So I'm going to give another book away just in case. And if she wasn't, then two people get lucky and win books tonight. No, not Amy. Okay, so Amy won a book tonight. That's great. And Laura wins a book. So Laura and Amy are the winners of books tonight. So I know Miss Debbie will make sure. And you guys, if you want a book, reach out to me via email. And the same thing for Sarah. She can reach out to me via email. I'll be reaching out to you guys. But I do need a physical address from all of you so I can send you a book. Anyway, that is great. I hope you guys have had a great evening. I'm going to put up, just let me stop sharing my screen again. And I'm going to put up just really quickly one more time this link. And I'm going to be in there for the next 15 minutes if you have questions. I don't think we have any other questions tonight. Excellent session, all of those things. And it's been great. I'm super excited. I'm super excited to share tomorrow night. We're going to bring it all together and all the little details. So I hope you guys have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Some of you may be heading to bed on the East Coast, but otherwise I will see you all tomorrow night. So have a great evening and bye.